Hi, everyone. Lou Canellis here. It is NFL Draft Week, one of the holidays in the NFL schedule. Bears with 4 picks amongst the first 72. Exciting time, so I brought along our draft nerd here at Fox 32 Chicago. You read his writings on fox32chicago.com, Chris Kwasinski. All right, I was at the NFL owners' meetings, Chris. Bears GM Ryan Poles told the media there, and there were about 8 to 10 reporters, that there are 8 to 10 blues, as they call these players in the player evaluation business. So really good players. And then there could potentially be as many as 70, 80 good players in the draft. Size up the draft for us.
I think that's a perfect evaluation. When you think specifically about blue players, you're thinking about the Ashton Genties, the Tyler Warrens. You're talking about Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, guys that could be Pro Bowlers for the next 10 plus years. And it's really interesting because last week I had a chance to talk with Nick Baumgartner, lead draft analyst for The Athletic. He was saying, would you rather draft a quarterback that could be the guy who maybe 50-50 chance could be a dude that carries your franchise for the next 3 to 4 years, or draft a Travis Hunter that could be a 10-time Pro Bowler? And you draft Travis Hunter every single time. But there's only about 4 or 5 of those guys, plus maybe a couple more depending on how evaluations go. But this draft is loaded with offensive linemen, especially in the interior. You got guys like Donovan Jackson, who could be a first-round pick in any other year, but is a second-round pick this year because of guys that are just loading up that first round, plus guys like JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State, who's also a fantastic edge rusher, would have gone first round. Man, there are so many pass rushers this year that kind of take up space in front of him too. So that's what I'm looking at. There are so many players, and it's going to be fun to watch how all those players shake out, especially the course of the second day, where we're going to see the most action with the Bears.
But we only know that Cam Ward is going number 1 to Tennessee. After that, it's a crapshoot, right?
Oh, it's massively crapshoot. And when I was talking to Nick too, I was like, look, where does this draft get interesting? And he's like, literally the second pick. We don't know. We could think Abdul Carter, because Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter in the same defensive line, that's fantastic. But also Travis Hunter's that kind of guy you can't pass up. You can't downplay the ability he could bring for you on an offense and defensive standpoint. But
wait, the Browns say he's a wide receiver. They don't want him to play in the secondary.
That's a good point too. We don't really know exactly where he wants to go, where he could go, but also maybe the Browns just decide Shedeur Sanders is our guy. Maybe this is the guy we have at number 2. Or maybe they shock the world, pick an offensive lineman. You don't know. It's that second pick where that really starts to shape the rest of the top 10. Because a guy like Mason Graham could go top 5 in any other year, but he could slide into the teens this year, which is crazy to think about.
I can't believe you just said that Shedeur Sanders might go number 2. I was listening to the radio today, and they said he might fall to 20. Where do you think he's going?
To be honest with you, there's...
And I don't believe anything I hear from the teams on the way up to the draft.
That's a great point, because...
A lot of misleading going on, a lot of lying.
The smoke screens are for days, but when you think about 2 teams that need quarterbacks just desperately, outside of number 1 overall, because obviously Tennessee went out and signed Tim Boyle, that's the biggest free agent acquisition Tennessee made at quarterback this year. They need one, so they're going to go Cam Ward. But after that, Cleveland needs a quarterback. Deshaun Watson might not play this year. And what happens then? Do they trust Kenny Pickett? I believe these are the guys that they're trading for, the guys that they sign. I mean, what happens there? But also, New Orleans, we don't know if Derek Carr is going to miss time. I believe as Adam Schefter reported, he suffered an injury, might miss some time too. They need a quarterback of the future because Derek Carr is not their guy. Shedeur Sanders is a fantastic player. Is he as good as Drake May? Is he as good as Jaden Daniels? Is he good as Caleb Williams? Absolutely not.
Is he as good as Jackson Dart as a quarterback?
Oh, he's better than Jackson Dart. But Jackson Dart, I think, has the best upside when you consider all 3 of them, because he's played in such a quarterback-friendly scheme at Ole Miss. That was the best decision he made, transferring from USC to Ole Miss too.
So if Jackson Dart has put himself in that type of position, could you see Jackson Dart quietly, and you just touched on the Saints without Derek Carr, where Cleveland is without Deshaun Watson, is there any chance that Jackson Dart could move into the top 10 picks?
Absolutely. We've seen this last year too.
Because it all works to the Bears' benefit then.
Absolutely, it does. Especially if you have a team that needs a quarterback like Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers hasn't signed there yet, so what are they going to do? So if you have a team that needs a quarterback, we've seen teams overpay so many times in the draft for quarterbacks. The Bears did it when they traded up to get Justin Fields. They traded the first round.
They did it when they drafted Mitch Trubisky and made the trade with the Niners.
Absolutely. So when you have a guy like Jackson Dart who's got experience, who's shown that he has the football acumen to be a successful quarterback, there's going to be teams that mortgage their futures to go up. And if the right team comes calling the Bears at 10 saying, hey, we want this guy, we're going to give you X, Y, and Z, like you just said, with the amount of good players, the Bears, they don't have a blue chip player that's right there waiting for them. Why not trade down and get a good player and get another good player, probably in the top 72, like you just mentioned?
Give me a surprise pick amongst the first 10.
Ooh, I think you just nailed it. I think it's Jackson Dart. I think that's a guy where if you watch all the quarterback needy teams, that's a team is going to have to go get their guy. We saw last year with the Denver Broncos. I didn't think they were going to take Bo Nix, but they did at number 12. Same with J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings. They didn't need a quarterback, but they went out and got one anyway. But also when you think about the needs for Cleveland, when you think about the needs for New Orleans, I also kind of question, well, what happens with a guy like Kirk Cousins? He's sitting behind Michael Penix. That is also the surprise of last year's draft, too, at number 8 overall. So quarterbacks are the most important position in sports. Why not this year with a team maybe going up and getting their guy, the guy they perceive to be their guy? The Bears did it with Mitch Trubisky. It didn't work out, but that was their guy. Probably going to happen this year again, too.
All right, let's bring it home to the Bears. Where are the Bears going at number 10?
Oh, man.
If left tackle Will Campbell is there, and I'm of the belief that they still need a left tackle. Braxton Jones coming off the ankle surgery. Karana Magaji put him in a tough position last year. This team, this franchise still needs a left tackle to protect its generational quarterback, or at least they hope, a guy that's going to be their generational quarterback, Caleb Williams. Where are they going at number 10?
See, I love Will Campbell, too. I think he fits perfectly there. I think he fits perfectly at left tackle, but also as a depth piece. Maybe Braxton Jones wins that starting spot, but we saw last year with guys getting hurt left or right, you need depth at offensive line. Will Campbell would provide that at every single position outside of center. But I don't think he's going to be there for the Bears at 10. I think you got teams like Jacksonville, like the Raiders, like New England Patriots, number 4 overall, that need offensive linemen. They need to stabilize that anchor too. So I'm looking at 3 guys right now. I'm thinking of Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State. I'm thinking about Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M. I know a lot of Bears fans, a lot of draft analysts too, are really polarized with this guy. We really don't know what he's going to do at the next level, but he's incredibly athletic. And then obviously Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, a fantastic player, arguably one of the best college football players we saw on the field last year. Clearly was when they played Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl too. But I think when it comes down to it, Genty's going to be long gone by then. I think the Raiders are going to take that guy. Give me either Shamar Stewart, a pass rushing guy who creates a lot of havoc plays. It's a word that we've heard the last couple months with Dennis Allen. We want to create havoc on defense. He can do that. He's got 39 pressures and 315 defensive snaps for Texas A&M last year. Only 1.5 sacks. But when you get to the quarterback like that, Montez Sweat has a chance to make plays too. We're talking about Grady Jarrett, another sack master that the Bears just signed this offseason as well. Gervon Dexter, we saw him start out the season really hot last year and getting to the quarterback. If you add another piece like that, you're pairing him with Dayo Odengbo, 2 guys that consistently pressure the quarterback. You're going to affect a lot of throws. I think that's a guy the Bears could look at number 10 overall.
Any chance Mason Graham from Michigan is there?
Man, if he is, the Bears should run that pick. I mean, don't even waste time. You just take that pick, you sprint it to the podium because that is a fantastic
Would he be your second defensive player picked for the Bears behind Abdul Carter?
Yeah, I'd say so because you have a guy that you can play anywhere on the defensive line. We've seen people say he could play 3-tech, he could play 9-tech, he could play the pass rushing defensive end. This is a guy that's so fundamentally sound. He may not have the highest ceiling. Obviously, Abdul Carter is that guy. We saw him dominate Notre Dame in that bowl game. We've seen him dominate the entire season long, but Mason Graham is so fundamentally sound that you want a guy like that that's just going to shore up the defensive line, especially with the Bears. We know how much they've addressed the defensive line this offseason, but Andrew Billings is the final year of his contract. What are they going to do after that? Mason Graham's a really good answer for that question if he falls to the Bears at 10.
Ashton Jeanty, generational running back?
That's a tough question. It's a really tough question.
Is he worth trading up for? Because you know the Raiders want him, and maybe others amongst the top 10. If you're the Bears and you feel, Ben Johnson feels that he's a generational type running back, is it worth trading up, or should they stand pat because they've got 2 picks, 39 and 41 in the second round, and it's a deep draft for running backs?
If it was up to me, if I'm Ryan Poles sitting there in the Bears war room, I know how aggressive he likes to get. We saw the video last year of him trying to trade up to get Rome Odunze. He's like sitting there itching. He's like, can we just go up and get our guy? If that's their guy, you can't argue against going up and getting it. But if it's going to cost too much, if it's going to take one of those second-round picks this year and next year, maybe a first-round pick next year, I think that's way too expensive for a guy that has 9 fumbles in the last 2 seasons of college football, that's got a lot of wear and tear, a lot of miles on his wheels, a guy that carried the ball over 300 times. And credit, the output is incredible. He almost broke Barry Sanders' record. That has to be taken into account. But this is also a guy that dominated the Mountain West, didn't dominate Power 4. When he got to the college football playoff against Penn State, we saw the struggles he had against that elite defensive front there. I don't think it's worth trading up and getting a guy when you could wait in the second round or maybe even the third round. When Caleb Johnson, Travion Henderson, Cam Skattebo, I know people will say, well, Skattebo's not that fast. He does everything else really well. He's a gritty player who could do well in special teams and the passing game, the pass blocking game too. There are so many other running backs that fit Ben Johnson's system that would fit next to Roschon Johnson and DeAndre Swift. I don't think you need to mortgage the future to go up and get a guy that also has questions surrounding his ball security.
Of those running backs you just mentioned, Marion Hampton, which of those do you prefer the most?
When you think about what the Bears have and what Ben Johnson liked when he was in Detroit with the Sonic and Knuckles with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, there's one guy that really kind of fits the Knuckles part of it, and that's Cam Skattebo. I know people will kind of balk a little bit at the 4.65 40 that he ran at the combine, but I don't put a lot of stock into that as well. People didn't really gawk that much at David Montgomery's speed, but we've seen David Montgomery run a lot of touchdowns in Chicago too. He's a good guy. He's a quick guy. I think his pass receiving ability, especially what he showed against Texas in the college football playoff this past year too, was phenomenal. I think this is a guy that does a little bit of everything. If he's there in the third round, that allows you to get an interior offensive lineman in the second round plus another pass rusher too. If you go ahead and draft a guy like Tyler Warren, or if you want a guy like Mason Taylor, tight end at LSU, who's slowly rising up draft boards as we speak now going into draft week. There's a lot that you can do, but I think it is such a deep draft for running backs, you shouldn't mortgage the future. You should go get one in the third or second round, a guy that you really like that fits the makeup of what you have on the roster right now.
Interesting. I want to go back to the offensive line because if Will Campbell's not there and this franchise, this coaching staff, general manager Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham as assistant, the rest of the scouts are full-blown into drafting another offensive lineman with that 10th pick in the draft, who after Campbell would you recommend?
Oh, Armand Membou, without a doubt. And the only reason it's difficult is because if you go watch the trends the last couple of years, Ryan Poles didn't have a first-round pick in 22, but the last 2 years he did. And the picks that he took were guys that he brought to Hallis Hall on top 30 visits. And Darnell Wright was one of those. Caleb Williams was. Rome Odunze was. Armand Membou wasn't. But I watched this guy, and I covered him when he played at Mizzou. He's one of the most athletic offensive linemen I've ever seen play. He's incredible. He can play right guard. He can play left guard if you need him in a pinch. He projects as a tackle at the next level. And he's that guy that really fits the athletic tackle mold that Ben Johnson really likes, even more so than Will Campbell does. And I know Will Campbell has some questions about his short arms, but in the NFL, I don't really think that matters, especially for a guy that was voted the best offensive lineman in the SEC last year. Armand Membou is one of those guys who knows exactly what it takes to succeed at the pass blocking level. As soon as he was plugged in at Mizzou, he started to flourish. And I'll never forget the spring ball 2023. It was right before everything kicked into high gear with the NFL draft that year. Eli Drinkwitz, head coach of Mizzou, said, the one regret I had for the 2022 season is I did not play Armand Membou more than I did. He started the last 5 games at Mizzou, ended the game earning bowl eligibility. Big part of that was Armand Membou.
Tight end Tyler Warren, too good to pass up?
Absolutely.
If he's there at 10,
oh, absolutely.
and Genty's gone and Campbell's gone, you're going Tyler Warren?
I go Tyler Warren in a heartbeat. Like I said, remember what I said about Mason Graham, where I'm sprinting the pick to the podium?
Same way.
Oh, I'm getting a caravan of cars to drive it to the podium, because this is a guy that fits exactly what Ben Johnson wants. You have Cole Kmet, that guy who's a receiving tight end who can also block, but Tyler Warren is about the same thing. You could have two of those guys on each side of the offensive line. Think about the things that Ben Johnson could do. We saw what he did in Chicago with the stumble bum play with Sam Laporta and Jared Goff. Think of all the crazy stuff he could get into with Tyler Warren and Cole Kmet on the same offensive line, on both sides flanking there. He's such a great pass catcher. He's still got some work to do as a route runner, but when you're that big and you're that tough to tackle, you just get the ball and just say, go ahead, try and bring me down. Tyler Warren was so good at that this year, and he burst onto the scene, especially with the USC game where he had 17 catches over 200 yards at a touchdown. He also played Wildcat. They also moved him out wide, too. He could play anywhere in this Ben Johnson offense. That's a weapon. That's such a wild card. You got to think Ben Johnson's already thinking of ways to put him in different places. He even threw a pass for a touchdown at Penn State, too.
Yeah, Ben Johnson loves that two tight end offense. He sure did in Detroit, that's for sure. As you look at the draft as a whole for the Bears with 7 picks in the draft, if they decide that they wanted to make a trade or two, are they better off keeping all 7 picks or actually grabbing more through trades, or are they better off with fewer picks, but fewer picks that are higher in the draft?
I think it's the latter right there. If you're going to mortgage any of the draft capital that you have, we saw what they did this offseason. They had a 6th-round pick, and they went and promptly traded that for Jonah Jackson, which is the correct move. You get a starting offensive lineman for a 6th-round pick. It's a great deal. You do that any time. But if you're going to move up or get any more draft capital in this draft, you want to add between that 70 pick range like we talked about, where there are 60 to 70 guys which are really good as outside of the blue chip prospect area. You get more of those. I mean, you're talking about adding depth. The joke every year is when you have guys like Alabama and Georgia, when they graduate 5 stars and they lose guys to the NFL draft, the guys that come up behind them are 4 or 5-star players, guys that are just super talented, the next NFL draft picks. That'd be this kind of the same idea with the Bears, where it's like you have depth spots to fill. At tight end, the offensive line, at wide receiver as well. I'd even say potentially
secondary.
Quarterback. Exactly. Even potentially quarterback. We don't know what's going to happen with Tyson Bagent after this contract year. So why not go up and get as many good players as you can to fill those spots? I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, guys that you know will stick. All right, let me give you a wrap up. I'm going to put you on the spot. All right, and I mean, let's be realistic here. We know that Cam Ward won't be there. We know that Abdul Carter won't be there. Give me who you think the Bears are going to end up with in the 1st round.
I think it's going to be Tyler Warren. And I think the latest mock draft that I just published today has Ashton Jeanty.
On Fox32Chicago.com.
On Fox32Chicago.com. Look it up. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be long gone by the time the Bears pick. I think Will Campbell's going to be gone by the time the Bears pick as well. I think it's going to come down to the 2 guys that they brought into Hallis Hall recently. I think Tyler Warren was a private workout where they kind of saw him do his thing. But Shamar Stewart came to Hallis Hall too. So those are 2 guys they have scouted extensively from the combine until now. I think it's going to come down to those 2 guys. And you just hired an offensive coach. So why not go get one of the best offensive players in the draft? A guy that you can use in so many different ways that's going to look so creative when you make all these fun plays with Ben Johnson this upcoming season with Caleb Williams, but also a guy that can be an extension of the run game, that can block at a high level, that can help out guys like, just in case, Karana Magaji, like you said. If he has to start, if he has to play this year, he could help him out so he's not on an island like he was against Minnesota in the Monday Night Football game. That was a tough one for him, but it wouldn't be tough with a guy like Tyler Warren next to you.
All right, and because you are the draft nerd, picks 39 and 41 and 72.
Give me JT Timulau from Ohio State. That's a fantastic edge rusher that we saw play his best football in the college football playoff. I think he had like 6 sacks in 3 or 4 games. It's incredible. The way that he turned on in his performance, because he was a fringe 1st rounder, kind of fell back during the regular season just because that performance wasn't there. But as soon as the college football playoff came on, he was a completely different player. The lights shined bright, and he was incredible. I think that's pick number 39. I'm going to throw a curveball a little bit because, like you mentioned, this team needs help at safety as well, defensive back. We don't know about the availability for Jaquan Brisker. We've seen concussions every single year he's been in the league. That's tough. Also, Kevin Byard's last year of his contract. That's a phenomenal, smart player, but we just don't know. Give me Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame, a fantastic All-American player I saw play a lot of football last year. There is no one that could patrol a boundary, but also go in and make physical tackles. He is a hybrid player that could play so well, especially in Dennis Allen's scheme, where he just needs playmakers. Think Tyrann Mathieu. In the last couple of years, he was in New Orleans, but that number 72 overall pick, it's tough. But if you give me Cam Skattebo, you fill out that offensive depth chart where you have a full running back room. Roschon Johnson handles the goal line special teams. You have Cam Skattebo, who can be that change of pace of DeAndre Swift, who can be that lightning that Ben Johnson likes, especially in the screen game, especially in the pass game as well. That's fantastic to have, and it kind of completes the depth piece that you're talking about.
Great job. I know this is your time. He's excited about Thursday. We all are. Don't forget, we will have our draft coverage beginning at 5:30 Thursday night. Yours truly, along with Anthony Herron, we will be live from Soldier Field, literally inside the bowl of Soldier Field. Weather's supposed to be great. Thank you very much. Also, Cassie Carlson will be in Green Bay covering the draft for us. Tina Wynn will be at draft headquarters of the Bears at Hallis Hall. We are everywhere because we are your home of the Bears. Fox 32 Chicago. For Chris Kwasinski, I'm Lou Canellis. Thanks for watching.